Avraham Zagdoun Chaim's teachings. Parashat Shoftim, 5780. Parashat Shoftim begins with this: Put judges and law enforcement officers for you in all of your gateways, which HaShem, your God, has given you for each of your tribes, and they will judge the people with just laws. The Parsha starts talking about the system of laws, and later on states this: You shall not tilt the law, and not be impartial, and you shall not take bribes, because bribery blinds the eyesight of wise men and warps the words of the righteous. The real bribery which alters the way we see the law is not just that of the judge receiving money or any kind of payment or benefit from one of the two sides of the argument, but rather the deepest source of tilting one's fair perspective in the underlying assumptions and opinions of the judge. And these hidden thoughts are like clouds which are covering his eyesight, which then prevent him from being able to bring forth just and true judgment. And this is the meaning of the words, because bribery blinds the eyesight of wise men. Then false assumptions that one has in his mind are the deepest influence on one's decisions, and they blind one's mental eyes from being able to see the deepest truth of truths, the Emet la'amito. What is this Emet la'amito? The truth behind the truth, the truest of truths. It is one, that the whole world is one, that there is only one being in the world, and these two people who have come to court with their financial dispute, with their argument, and their machloket, with their conflict, and they are now standing in front of the court, presenting their case to the judge. At the source, they are one person, not two. They are the same entity. And this is something that the judge must see and be aware of. The first and foremost element that he should be conscious of is the awareness of the unity and oneness of these two people. And only after he sees their oneness, only then can he reach a judgment based on the deepest of truths, on Emet la'amito. And this true judgment is the middle pillar, the Amud ha'emtzai. This is the pillar which facilitates the oneness between them, because the primary underlying issue that has to be resolved when they come to court by the wise judges is the very fact that the reason that they are experiencing distance and discord is for them to come to this lawsuit in order for the court to connect and unify them, and also to make the correct dissection and differentiation between them at the most precise point, in order to keep a specific distance between them and to retain each one's individuality, and at the same time to unify and combine them with peace, which is the purpose of the mishpat, the giving of the judgment. This is the meaning of what the prophet Zechariah said in chapter 8, with truth and judgment give judgment of peace. That the foremost purpose of the judges must be the attainment of truth which brings peace. A truth which is peace itself, because any kind of truth which does not bring peace is not real truth, but rather the primary goal of all judgment, and law is the achievement of peace, and only this is true judgment. This essence of judgment, of mishpat, which is mentioned at the beginning of the parashah, is connected to something mentioned later in the same parashah. The prohibition to bring as a sacrifice an animal which has a defect. Because if the animal being sacrificed already has a defect before the shechita, then the shechita will also be the imperfect, as will be explained. And therefore, the Torah says, "You will not sacrifice to HaShem Elokecha a bull or a calf which has a defect." The word shechita in Lashon HaKodesh will be used here and not the word slaughtering, because the specific way that the Torah tells us to prepare the sacrifice, and actually any animal to be eaten, is very precise. It has to be done with a specifically prepared knife, which is sharpened to the utmost possible sharpness, and the knife has to be applied to the neck of the animal in a way which causes instant and totally painless death, with very precise placement and angle of the cutting, and with great speed and back and forth movement with minimal downwards pressure, in order to achieve this painless exit of the animal's soul. This is called shechita, and must not be confused by any means with any other form of putting an animal to death. Therefore, the original Lashon HaKodesh word shechita will be used through this essay. So, how is the shechita connected with the essence of judging a lawsuit, with the essence of mishpat? Mishpat is a very important issue. It is so great and amazing, so much, that the entire complete redemption depends on it, as related by the prophet Yeshaya in chapter 1, and Zion will be redeemed by mishpat. And the central essence of true judgment is to take all of the arguments and disputes in the world between any two people, and to reveal that underlying all of this is only one real essence. And even after revealing that all is one, we still have to differentiate and separate between the two components with mishpat, allowing each and every part, each and every person, to have his own individual space and place in the world, his own uniqueness in full, but at the same time bringing them together to unify two opposites within one essence, to allow the one which is absolutely one and totally unified to still hold within it differentiation between two components. And understanding this principle is an immense and very deep awareness and consciousness, a great dot. And this is related to what our sages of blessed memory told us in the Talmud Yerushalmi, in Masechet Brachot, page 5. If there is no das, where can havdalah, differentiation, come from? Because without this truest and deepest das, one cannot make the true differentiation. The differentiation which allows separation and unity of the parts simultaneously. And this is why we include the Havdalah in the prayer of Ma'ariv on Motzei Shabbos, within the blessing of Chonen Hada'at. He who gives us Da'at, because the truest of differentiations is with the real Da'at. And this Da'at is also what mediates and connects all of the opposites in the world, combining them into a unified essence. And this is brought forth in Likutei Moharan by Rabbi Nachman of Breslev in Part 2, Torah 89. Das is what makes all of the shidduchim, married couples, because all married couples come from the connection of opposites, and da'at is what mediates and combines two opposites. And what is so special about the true da'at is how it differentiates and connects at the very same moment, simultaneously. And this is the essence of true mishpat. Mishpat, which is emet la'amito, the mishpat, which eventually will be the primary essence, bring about the complete redemption of Israel. And this is related to the shechita, because the shechita is done with a knife, and this knife has the aspect of the sword, which comes from true mishpat, and explained by Rabbi Nachman in Likutei Moharan, Torah 2, like this. One who has attained this sword must know how to fight with this sword in a way where he does not slant to the right or to the left, in order for it to be pinpointed to the hairbreadth without missing. And this cannot be achieved without the aspect of mishpat, because mishpat is the middle pillar. And this sword, which comes from the mishpat, this sword is also the essence of the shechita knife, which must make the cut at the precise spot, without any slanting to the right or to the left, in order for the shechita to be valid and in order not to flaw the sacrifice. This is why the animal does not experience any pain or suffering at all when the shechita is done properly, and by going through a valid shechita, the animal attains a great perfection, because the knife cuts the precise spot in a way which allows duality. That even though the knife dissects the animal and separates in a certain part and partial way, but since the knife is so totally sharpened and the cut made in such a precise way, there is absolutely nothing removed from the animal's skin and muscle. And theoretically, if the two parts were placed back next to each other, there would be nothing missing whatsoever, as if the animal was still whole. And this is the essence of true judgment, mishpat emet, which connects and unifies the two opposing people, mishpat, which can simultaneously separate and differentiate and make a decision between the two, and at the very same moment can connect and unite them peacefully. This is also the primary fulfillment of emunah, of belief, which will bring forth the complete redemption, as Shlomo Melech referred to in Shir HaShirim, chapter 4, come forth and sing at the pinnacle of belief, Rosh Emunah. This is the Mishpat Emet, which has the essence of the valid Shechita and shares the same essence of whole Emunah, as the prophet Hosea states in chapter 5, and those who sacrificed to the false gods deepen their wickedness. This is the lack of emunah, which brings upon a person deep descents and heaviness with all kinds of confused thought and complicated so-called sophistic reasoning, which mix up one's belief, since people get caught up in this seemingly great death, whereas the shechita has the essence of emunah, which can pass and leap over all of these confusions, because the confusion comes from lack of full belief in HaShem Yitbarach. And what is this full belief? This emunah shlema? It is the ability to embrace the two opposites fully, the ability to hold on to differentiation and oneness simultaneously. Because when we see things which appear as total opposites, that is the moment to realize and believe that all of the opposites, no matter how different and separated they are, all of the different changing things that we see and experience in this world, all of this is derived from the one simple unity, from HaShem Yitbarach, and His unity and oneness includes everything, all of the opposites. And this is the essence and aspect of the Shechita and of the Mishpat. Because all two people who have a dispute, an argument, are the source of differentiations and conflicts in the world, with such different viewpoints and outlooks that cannot be compromised and cannot reach agreement. So they have to come to court, to a judge, to figure out the truth and to reach a solution. And the end goal of the judge must be the attainment of the oneness, peace and unity between the two conflicting claims, and to believe that these two totally oppositional opinions and claims are both derived from the one and the same source, the oneness of HaShem Yitbarach, because the truth is that there is nothing in existence other than HaShem Yitbarach, and everything comes from Him. Shalom and conflict are all coming from the same source. And the same goes for Shechita, because the animal must go through the process of Shechita in a certain way, by which, even though it is being dissected and parts separated from each other, even so, the cut of the Shechita is not noticeable, as if there is a cut, a separation, but still the animal remains one and whole. And this is Emunah, to believe in the oneness of HaShem Yitbarach, that He Yitbarach is one, single and unique, Echad, Yachid, Umeyuchad, in the heavens above and in the earth below. And all of the changes and transformations and conflicts in the entire world are derived precisely from His oneness Yitbarach. And precisely because all of this is truly one, this itself is the cause of the conflict and argument between one person and another. Each person, even as he is in this world, and each one has his one personal body and shape, as he was created and formed here, he is still connected with the upper world in which everything is one. And as long as the entire oneness becomes clothed and hidden within each person, so there are conflicts and disputes in this world. Because each person perceives himself as a full entity, as if he is a complete thing, and therefore he has no room to accept another person within himself, to make room for the other person, because if a person was able to come out of the oneness of the upper world, but to remain within the awareness that he is split up into two parts, to understand that two people together are the real himself. That the person arguing with him and what he perceives as himself are each half of one whole entity, then he would find it easy to connect and to live in peace and love with each and every other being in the world. But as long as each one perceives himself as a whole thing, a whole person, he sees himself as being separated, then he finds it difficult to accept the position of the other person, as if the other person and the other opinion don't belong to him, as if the opposite way of seeing things has nothing to do with him. He sees himself as being a whole, as being by himself, and everything should be understood and perceived by others the same way that he sees things and the way he wants things to be. And this is the root and source of all conflict. From the oneness, from the one, from the inner mistaken feeling coming from the one and taking the form of each separate person having a false awareness of himself as if he is a whole one. And each of the disputants has within himself this essence of being one coming from the true whole one. And as long as a person does not have the true awareness and thus which enables him to make the correct differentiation within himself in order to perceive himself as one half of a true whole, which then brings him to include the other person within himself, the conflict will continue. So, when a person comes to the judge, the true shofet, who knows how to reach the true judgment, the Emet la'amito, to the shofet who knows the truth about where the conflict comes from, and this judge perceives the unity and oneness of the two disputants, and he understands the conflict comes precisely because each of them is derived from the true whole one, and therefore is experiencing within himself the essence of I am one. And that is the root of the dispute in this world, because each of them has the essence of a full one. Then this true shofet can make the correct cut, the precise shchita. He can dissect and differentiate with the correct da'at, and with this great and amazing da'as, he can make the true separation between them. He can make the pinpoint cut of the shchita, bring forth the inner awareness of each one regarding his deepest essence of being half, of being a part. And even though the shofet has made the separation and avdallah, which is the cut of the shchita, he is still revealing the oneness, because each one can now perceive his connection and unity with the other one. And this is the shalom and truth which the shofet brings forth between them. These disputes and conflicts are the aspects of the animal within us, because a true person, a true Adam, is always in peace, whereas all disputes come from the animal aspect within us, from the animalistic characteristics and behavior that we have, which result in conflict. And why is this? Because there is no true connection between animals. Each animal is truly a whole being. Each animal has the essence of the wholeness and oneness of the upper world, as long as it has not gone through shchita. And what is the deep essence of the shchita? It is the revelation that what seems to be one is actually two, and that even in this oneness of the upper world, there are two. And in this world, the duality of the upper world is revealed in human beings, because only human beings can reveal that even though each one is a separate and whole being, he is also two. Human beings can become aware of dualities, of the soul-body connection, of the physical-spiritual combination, of speech and body, thought and speech, emotions and cognition. And even though a person has the basic experience of being separate and a complete entity by himself, he can love others. He can give to others and take care of others, to give and to receive. And even though he is one, he can become aware that he is only a half, or to be more exact, he is a whole which has been divided into two halves. And then, when he realizes that he is actually two, and what is this two? Himself and his friend, himself and his neighbor, himself and his wife, then he can achieve peace and live in full harmony and love, since peace and love exist only when there are two connecting with each other into one. But as long as there is only one, as long as we still think that each of us is a whole and is a one, as long as we have not yet discerned the two from within the one, then in this world all of the disputes and conflicts come forth. And this is the aspect of the animal within us, which is one. And since it is one and has not yet realized its duality, that the one is actually two, that each one has another one within it, then it has to go through the process of shchita, of the differentiation. The shchita which cuts and separates and brings forth how each one is actually two, but like a valid shchita, which has the essence of the true mishpat, which cuts and separates only in order to complete the process, to reveal that the one is actually two, and simultaneously, at the very same moment, brings forth and reveals that this one, which is two, is truly only one. And this is the secret of the most amazing peace to be revealed in the world, when all of the opposites will connect with love and peace. And this will be the peace and love of the one itself, the one which separate himself into the multitude of the endless number of different things, times, places, shapes, actions, opinions, with the never-ending opposites and conflicts. And in the end, the great shochet, the person with the complete and whole da'at, will come, with the da'at of the Torah of Mashiach, and he will come with his sword, not in order to kill and destroy and to make a physical shchita, chas v'shalom. He won't hurt anyone, by no means, but rather his sword, and the sword of the true da'at, with the full awareness and consciousness. The da'at which is able to dissect and differentiate within the one, and with that exactly same da'at, at the very moment of differentiation, to combine and connect everything in the world into unity and peace throughout the entire world.